Welcome to Starwatch Now, your front row seat to all the hottest gossip, drama, and breaking news from the world of entertainment. If it's trending, shocking, or star-studded, we're covering it. Stay tuned. You won't want to miss what's coming next.
No one walked into that stadium expecting history. People came for the spectacle, for the sound, for the familiar rhythm of a major concert that promised scale, precision, and predictability. The lights were flawless, the crowd was electric, and the atmosphere felt exactly like what Asia's biggest music event was supposed to feel like. Everything followed the script, until quietly and without warning, something slipped beyond it. In a space designed for noise and celebration, a moment emerged that no stage effect could manufacture and no rehearsal could fully contain. It was not announced, it was not hinted at, and it was certainly not planned as the emotional center of the night. Yet, within seconds, the audience sensed that what they were witnessing was different. This was not about choreography alone, nor about fame or applause. It was about timing, presence, and an unspoken understanding that traveled faster than sound. When Wang Yibo and Xiao Zhan stepped into the same frame, the concert stopped feeling like an event and started feeling like a memory being formed in real time. People did not lean forward because they were excited. They leaned forward because they felt something irreversible was about to happen. And once it passed, it could never be recreated in the same way again. The concert had been moving at full speed before that point. Performances flowed one after another, each carefully designed to energize the crowd. The audience responded as expected, cheering, filming, singing along. Nothing was out of place. When Wang Yibo's name was announced, the reaction was immediate and powerful, a wave of recognition and anticipation rolling through the stadium. He walked onto the stage with the confidence of someone who understood exactly where he stood. Not just in the program, but in the public eye. His presence carried sharpness and control, the kind that comes from years of discipline rather than momentary hype. At that moment, the audience thought they knew what they were about to see. They thought this would be another highlight in an already impressive night. What they did not know was that the night was about to shift its emotional center. When Xiao Zhan appeared, the sound in the stadium changed. It did not simply grow louder, it deepened. The energy moved inward rather than outward, as if thousands of people collectively paused to recalibrate what they were feeling. There was no dramatic announcement, no extended introduction. His arrival felt natural, almost understated, which only made its impact stronger. Two figures now shared the same space, and suddenly the scale of the concert felt smaller, more intimate. The vastness of the stadium no longer mattered. What mattered was the distance between them, the way they stood, and the silence that briefly stretched before the music began. That silence was not empty. It was full of recognition, memory, and anticipation that had been building for years without a clear outlet. When the music finally started, it did not rush. The tempo was restrained, giving room for every movement to breathe. Wang Yibo's style was crisp and grounded, each step carrying clarity and intent. Xiao Zhan's movements, by contrast, felt fluid and measured, guided less by force and more by emotional weight. What made the performance remarkable was not technical difficulty, but the way these differences coexisted without friction. Neither tried to dominate the stage, neither pushed for attention. Instead, their movements responded to each other, creating a rhythm that felt conversational rather than performative. It was as if the choreography was less about impressing the audience and more about maintaining a shared understanding between two people who did not need to explain themselves. At several points, their paths crossed in ways that felt deliberate, yet unforced. A turn here, a pause there, a shift in direction that subtly acknowledged the other's presence. These were not gestures designed for dramatic effect. They were small, controlled, and deeply human. The kind of movements that only stand out because of how honestly they are executed. As the performance unfolded, the audience began to react differently. Phones were still raised, but hands were steadier. Cheers softened into attentive silence. People were no longer watching to be entertained. They were watching to absorb. The concert had transformed into a shared emotional space, one where noise felt unnecessary. The most striking moment arrived not with a dramatic climax, but with restraint. The music slowed, the lighting softened, and the two performers faced each other, with nothing elaborate separating them. No complex formations, no exaggerated gestures, just presence. In that moment, the stadium seemed to hold its breath. Tens of thousands of people stood still, connected by a silence that felt heavier than any sound. It was here that the performance stopped being about dance and became about communication. Not communication through words, but through timing, distance, and mutual awareness. The power of that moment lay in what was left unsaid, in the understanding that some emotions are strongest when they are not spelled out. After the music faded, the applause did not rush in immediately. There was a brief pause, almost as if the audience needed time to return to themselves. Then the sound came, long and sustained, filling the stadium with gratitude rather than excitement. Even as the next performance prepared to begin, the emotional tone had shifted. People hugged one another. Some wiped away tears, others simply stared at the stage as if trying to memorize every detail before it slipped away. The concert continued, but it no longer felt the same. Something had been marked and everyone present knew it. Online, the reaction followed quickly. Clips appeared from every angle, slowed down, replayed, examined. Yet the most common responses were not about technique or production. They were about feeling. Viewers struggled to explain why the performance stayed with them, why it felt heavier than expected, why it lingered long after the screen went dark. Some spoke of professionalism, others of mutual respect. Many described it as a moment that reminded them why they fell in love with live performance in the first place. There was no official explanation, no attempt to frame the narrative, and perhaps that was precisely why it resonated so deeply. The absence of definition allowed the moment to belong to everyone who experienced it. What made this performance stand out was not that it broke rules, but that it ignored them entirely. It did not chase spectacle, yet it became spectacular. It did not demand attention, yet it held it effortlessly. In an industry driven by constant noise and rapid cycles, this quiet intensity felt almost radical. It proved that sincerity still has weight, that restraint can be more powerful than excess, and that a single shared moment can outshine even the most carefully planned production. For many, this was not just a highlight of the concert, but a reminder that behind every stage, every light, and every headline, there are real people capable of creating something genuine when the conditions allow it. Whether this moment will ever be repeated is impossible to say. Perhaps it was meant to exist only once, in that specific place, at that specific time, and maybe that is what gives it its lasting power. Not everything meaningful needs a sequel. Some moments are complete the moment they end. If you stayed with this story until now, thank you for sharing this space with us. At Starwatch Now, we focus on the moments that go beyond headlines and statistics, the ones that leave a quiet mark and stay with you longer than expected. If you value thoughtful storytelling, real emotion, and a deeper look into the stories behind the spotlight, consider subscribing to the channel and turning on notifications. Your support allows us to continue exploring these unforgettable moments together. Thank you for watching, and we look forward to seeing you again on Starwatch Now.